Hey guys, welcome back to the Play on Footy YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the round 19 predictions. We've got, big round coming up. Let's say just that. I think the first game is going to be Bombers versus Crows. The last time these two teams met, it was the Bombers that won by 3 points. It was the Sam Draper incident where he laid on the ball in the Crows forward half, and Tex Walker went mad because, it could have been deemed dragging it in or holding the ball, but Draper got off, and then after the game, he was mimicking what he did in front of other players. Look, it was an interesting game to say the least. I think the Bombers, being at Marvel, obviously can play to their strengths a lot more. And then the Crows, they had a pretty big win against the Saints. But look, the Crows are just such a hard team to read. I mean, I'm going to do another video on where I predicted the ladder and where it sits right now. Because I think now's probably a good time to do that, to reflect back on. But yeah, the Bombers, for me, I'm tipping the Bombers. I think they have to come back from last week's loss to Melbourne Demons. So, I was surprised by that result, but I'm backing the Bombers in this time round. Next game is Giants versus Suns. The last time these two teams met was the Giants that won by 28 points. The Suns away from home don't have a great track record. I mean, they've won 7 at home and lost 8 away, as it stands. So their runs away from home have been pretty horrendous, the Suns. But yeah, the Giants at NG Stadium, their home ground, I just think that the Giants will come off, one up the Suns, and I think they'll come off the winners. So I'm tipping the Giants in this game. I think the forward line structure, I think Riccardi played really well against the Tigers, and he's been moving a lot more up the ground. Jesse Hogan's more that deep forward. And then Brent Daniels, he plays a bit in the midfield as well, and he's been sort of helping in the loss of Cornelio with that shoulder injury. But also you've got Whitfield running off halfback as he usually does, he's really dangerous. So I think him and Darcy Jones, you can't go wrong. So I think I'm going to be tipping the Giants in that one. The next game is the Saints versus the Eagles. Last time these two teams met, it was Saints by 14 points. The Eagles obviously having a pretty competitive game against the Lions, very emotional week for them. And then for Saints to have a bit of a stinker against the Crows, which, obviously not really helping their momentum or what they're trying to work towards. You just feel they really fell off compared to last year, the Saints. Obviously with King out, they've put Filippo forward, who's really, it's been a masterstroke by Ross Lyon, who earlier this year sent Filippo back to the VFL to hone his craft. I think you can really see that in most of his games. As for the Eagles, they've been trying out a couple of things. They had Zane True come in to the middle. They put Jinby on the halfback flank, which he played his school footy there, or his waffle footy there, so he feels a lot more comfortable. And I must say, he did look very comfortable on the weekend against the Lions. I think for these teams, this is really winnable and gettable for the Eagles. But having said that, it's a hard read. I think for Saints, they would want to win this game naturally, and so would the Eagles. But I just feel the Saints, with Rowan Marshall at their disposal, he just does everything. I mean, he got 150 AFL fantasy last week, and coming up against Bailey Williams, who hasn't really looked all that comfortable in the ruck. Understandably, we drafted him as a forward, but it just goes to show that, missing Flynn, who we did draft from the Giants, hasn't helped. But we'll see if Flynn comes back this week, but teams haven't been announced yet. In that case, I'm going to be tipping the Saints. Next game is Hawks versus Collingwood. Last time these two teams met was Pies by 5 points. Hawks have been on a roll. They're probably the second most informed side behind Sydney. I just think that, when you're coming up against Collingwood, who has been just lacking that composure to finish off games strong, whereas Hawks haven't really. They've actually been complete opposite to Collingwood. They've finished games really strong. And I think that the way that they link up and the way that they've got their structure behind the ball all sort of correlates to their success. That's seen them jump multiple spots over a couple of weeks. So I think the Hawks, especially with Sicily back in the team last week, you could see that really aided them. He went forward, kicked a couple. So I'm definitely going to be tipping the Hawks with this one. I think it'd be silly not to, so I'm going to be tipping the Hawks. Next game is the Cats versus the Dogs. Cats won by 4 points last time these two teams met. I think Cats being at GMHBA, yes, it's their home ground. Yes, they play generally pretty competitive football. I think they've only lost twice there this year. But I think one of those times was against the Port Power. But yeah, the Cats against the Dogs, the Bond plays really well against the Cats normally. And the Cats obviously yet to be seen if they bring back Reece Stanley. Toby Conway is still obviously injured. But come up against the big Tim English, you'd want someone to sort of negate him a little bit so they don't get easy centre clearances, the Dogs. So that'd be interesting to see. But my gut's telling me the Cats will get up, so I'm going to be tipping the Cats. The next game is Port versus Richmond. Port Adelaide won last time by 30 points. These two teams met. Richmond again in their rebuild phase. Nothing like they've been the last couple of seasons, Richmond, and a lot of their key stars have moved on. Jack Riewoldt, Trent Cotchin, and now Dustin Martin. Whether or not he goes to the Suns is yet to be seen. But yeah, the Port Power for me are the obvious choice here. I think that building's into things. It hasn't been a linear sort of trajectory for Port. They've sort of been like this a little bit this year, but I think with the heat of Ken Hinkley by the fans, you know, to say, hey, we need to get to finals and actually win a final, which they haven't really been able to convert. They've been able to get to finals, but haven't really been able to really get through the ranks. I think now's the year that they should be fighting for that. JHF, Jason Old-Francis on the weekend was a little bit concerning. His attitude and the way he wasn't able to insert himself into the game, even being moved from the middle to forward. He kicked a couple, but wasn't able to really be as dangerous as he could to aid Rosie and Butters. I think in this game against Richmond should help him. I mean, Richmond don't tag. Richmond, you know, they're not going to probably put too much pressure on JHF, so he should be able to free himself up, just because Port Adelaide have such a great midfield and other people that probably will hurt Richmond at the same time. So I think he'll be one to watch in this game, so I'm tipping Port. Next game is Lions versus Sydney. This one's at the Gabba. This last time these two teams met was Lions by 16 points. I think, yeah, this is a great game. Lions have been building nicely. They've moved into the top 8, obviously, after the win against the Eagles. And Sydney have had a couple of hiccups. I mean, 1 point loss to Dockers. And then they lost another game as well to the Saints. But yeah, I think this game here against the Lions is pivotal for Sydney. They need to win this. But then also it is pivotal to Lions, I mean, to keep building as well. So look, it's at the Gabba. Lions they lost their first game there to the Blues this season. I think I'm going to be tipping Sydney. I think Sydney have learnt from their little hiccups, their losses against Saints and also the Dockers. So I think Sydney for me will be the tip of choice. So I'm going to be going Sydney. Next game is Dockers versus Demons. This one's at Perth Optus Stadium. Last time these two teams met was Freo by 92 points, and that was in Darwin. An absolute demolition of the Demons. And so I'm going to be going the Dockers in this one. I think without Gawn as well. So whether or not Dockers bring back Sam Darcy, that will aid them. But I'm going to be tipping the Dockers in this game. And the last game of the round is Blues versus North. Blues won last time by 56 points. I'm going to be tipping the Blues in this one. I just think that, yeah, their loss against the Giants and then their most recent loss last week as well hasn't really helped with where they're trying to build as a club. Their loss against the Dogs last week was, yeah, a bit of a surprise, I must admit. But again, it just shows that Blues still aren't a finished product, just like the Bombers aren't. I mean, the Bombers are at risk of losing out as well because they've got a pretty low percentage. And for the Blues, nothing's set in stone. I mean, if they lose this game against North, whereas, you know, Pies nearly lost the game against North as well. So North, you know, this year you just never know. You know, you never know. You can't rest your hat on the fact that they're North and, you know, there might be just easy beats and stuff like that. I think North, you know, this year have definitely changed for the better, and next season will be even better. So I can't wait to see them. But what do you guys reckon? Comment down below, like and subscribe. Which game are you looking forward to seeing this round 19? Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.